The Talking Points with the Training Center starts now.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Training Center Talking Points podcast. It's our first ever podcast episode. I'm here with Dan Cabuling, owner of ID3 Training, and Ryan Ozella, Director of Player Development at the Training Center. Today's our first podcast. We'll be introducing our hosts, mission, and our vision for the podcast. What is the Talking Points podcast? We're going to be focusing on player development and the different tools and strategies we have in the Training Center. We're going to highlight our coaches and their backgrounds and the different areas of expertise. We're going to bring some attention to all the different pieces of technology we have in the Training Center. We are the most technologically advanced facility in Northern California. We're going to highlight all the different pieces of technology we have in our building and how we use it to drive player development in a unique way. We're going to explain all the blossoming systems that we're putting in place at the Training Center, how we're breaking down walls between all the different areas of player development, between skills and strength and movement, scouting, medical side, and having really a one-stop shop in our building. Other areas we're going to highlight is the robustness of our facility, our coaching, our strength and movement traders, our tech, our teams, our recruiting advice, and our scouting. The Talking Points podcast will be open forum. We'll tackle different points that we experience in player development. We'll be looking for feedback from our players and parents that anything they would like us to put on here, we're going to go ahead and try to have different episodes for each one of those. Dan's going to kind of introduce who we are and what we're looking for.
So my personal background, I was born and raised in Southern California, Chabuco Canyon. I played junior college baseball at Irvine Valley College, finished up at Westmont in Santa Barbara. That's where I got my undergrad degree in kinesiology. Ultimately went back to school, got my master's in exercise physiology, and worked at a couple different training facilities. Got a ton of experience working with all types of different athletes, especially during my master's program. But ultimately decided I want to work with baseball players and started ID3 Training about 2 years ago. And that's when I met Erik. It been awesome since starting, and really look forward to working with as many baseball players as possible.
Dan, why do you love working at the Training Center?
I think probably first is the comprehensiveness as a staff, like our ability to meet every need of the athlete. With previous experiences and other gyms and facilities I've been in, it's really easy to be extremely good at one thing. And you ultimately, and I had to come to this realization the hard way, like at a certain point, like I can't serve every single need of the athlete. And so being surrounded by other coaches who have the same mission and vision that we want to help baseball players reach their full potential, I think is something that is probably my most valuable piece and why I enjoy working there. And just working and training with baseball players in general is, to be honest, like my level of regret from my playing experience and my playing days, that I want every single baseball player to look back on their playing career and say, man, I did everything I possibly could and I reached my full potential. And I think the Training Center is the place to do that.
Awesome. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I was born in LA, lived in LA for a little bit before moving to the Santa Clarita Valley, which is where Magic Mountain is in the LA area as well. Went there, lived there, and went through high school, played high school baseball through that. Was not the most committed athlete as a high school player. So from there, I decided that because I didn't put really much of an emphasis into my playing skills, afterwards I put it into what I could do to focus on still being in the game of baseball, because the game of baseball has been a part of my life since I was born. My dad's been a high school baseball coach college baseball coach for 40 plus years. And that's just kind of been ingrained into my system. So from there, I tried to figure out different ways to stay involved with the game of baseball. So that took me to my education. That first thing was going to San Diego State, getting a bachelor's degree in business management while working with the baseball team for 4 years there in an operations role. Once I got done with that, I ran through a couple of other small jobs. I interned with the San Diego Padres, did some just retail type work before I went and got back to get some schooling done and finish my master's in psychology with the emphasis on sport and performance psychology. Once I finished that was in Denver, and then moved back to California with my wife, where we wanted to kind of just reestablish ourselves in California and start going forward. So from there, I went to scout school, started coaching at the youth levels and working with some different other facilities in the area and operational there as well. And while I was doing all that, scouting in NorCal through different couple of websites. The first one was at 2080baseball.com, and then most recently, the last 2 years, through Prep Baseball Report here in California, covering all of the high school players in Northern California. So that's a little background on who I am. One of the things that really drew me to the training center was just how innovative that everyone's trying to be with this group. Erik and Dan are both trying to push the innovation and trying to, as Erik mentioned, break down those silos. So that when we do work with players, it's not just a skill spot, it's not a strength spot, it's a everyone developing together spot. And that was really one of the biggest things that drew it to me. I've seen how well they've developed players over the last couple of years as I've been working in a scouting realm. And for me, it was about getting back into that player development side and being able to put a focus on a day-to-day basis on trying to get kids to be as great as they possibly can be and help the Dub program be as great as it will be.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, guys. So I was born in San Jose, raised in Morgan Hill since I was about 4 years old. So super deep roots in this area, in the South County part of the Bay Area. I played at Cabuling College, San Jose City College, UC Riverside, Sonoma State. So I did the 4 schools in 4 years and got through. Got my bachelor's from Sonoma State in sociology. Have my master's from St. Mary's College in kinesiology. Coaching-wise, started out at Live Oak High School, my alma mater, with the kind of legendary head coach Mark Cummins. I was there for 5 years. We won a CCS title my last year there. Moved on to San Jose City College, coached with my main mentor, Doug Robb. We had 2 years there before they shut the program down. During those 2 years, we had the most wins in Northern California. Went over with Walt White, my former coach at Sonoma State, and kind of restarted the Cal State Monterey Bay program from not a great state they were in, and really turned the program around. And now they're a complete national power at the Division II level. And then this is my 8th year in Dub. In July, it'll be 8 years of Dub. We started with a camp. We had one camp at Live Oak. I think we had about 22 kids out there in August of 2012, and it's grown into what we have right now, which is just a huge facility and a big following and awesome families and kind of all these tenants and arms that have branched off of the program. And it's all kind of grown out of one common mindset, and that's just to do what's best for players. And we constantly just do that every single day. And that's kind of where we are right now. Just worked with the Dodgers for about a year, and then moved over with the Nationals. I was with them for almost 5 years, doing some JC and high school coverage in the Bay Area. Some other important people we have in our building and our programs. Kayla Newmeyer is the ID3 trainer. Doug Porras and CJ Gallart were co-founders of Dub. We have our foundation board for our nonprofit, the Dub Foundation. So we'll probably talk about that in a future episode. And then we have our awesome Dub Baseball Dynasty coaching staff that runs our teams and does all that work with our younger players. Dan's going to kind of share the vision for the training center.
Yeah, I'd say the vision for the training center as a whole is to try and get as many professionals, experts, coaches, really as many people as possible into one spot that can help players develop. Again, I've used this before, but reach their full potential as people, not just baseball players, because someday we know sports is going to end. But I think that's the vision, and we're working our way there. We have a ton of amazing coaches. We've got obviously some of the best tech in the area, but I do think it's a genuine mindset that we have as a staff that, okay, we're going to do whatever it takes to help players realize that, hey, you can be really, really good at baseball. Here's the plan to do it, and here's how we can hold you accountable to achieving that plan, and then individualizing it to them, where I think the best thing that we can do is realize that we as all coaches aren't the most important thing in the player development model. The player themselves is. And so, long term, we're looking to bring on other professionals, whether it's physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists, any other coaches, catching coaches, outfielding coach, like anybody else who can bring expertise that can help players develop and get better and truly be good athletes on the field. Those are the people, and that's the vision for the training center is to pump out as many really, really good baseball players as possible.
And we want to do that at every age. You know, we have predominantly youth and high school players in our building most days, but we've also been having a decent amount of professional players in there recently. And then now that we're building out so many youth players that are turning into college players, we're starting to get a lot of college players that are training with us in the off season. So really the goal is to have a facility and a program that serves kids from a young age to all the way through a professional if they happen to make it that far. Ryan, can you share a little bit about our vision for the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So what our vision here is for the podcast, as we called it, the Talking Points with the Training Center. You know, one of the things that we really want to do is highlight the different elements of player development and the tools and resources that we have at the training center. And while we do that, we want to speak directly to the players and parents. Erik kind of just mentioned that it's about trying to connect with you guys and have you guys understand what we're doing a little bit easier and a little bit better. And also understanding why we're trying to push certain things on players or certain players to certain areas of our focuses. You know, we're going to have host guests that correspond with the different tools and concepts we're emphasizing. We've already kind of started planning out some different people that are going to come in and be hosts and guests with us to help us kind of talk about these technologies and tools that we've been gaining more knowledge and basis utilize as we go through the training center. So our mission really is to educate players and parents on the best ways to develop as a baseball player. And our vision overall is to have every baseball player in the Bay Area have access to the best info on player development, recruiting, and training.
Awesome. Yeah, so definitely what we're going for, and look forward to kind of all these different topics that we're going to tackle and encounter. And we're going to have some great guests that are going to hop on some of these podcasts and highlight some of the areas that we're working towards in the training center. Our next podcast after this one will be hopefully at the end of the week. We're going to take some time to edit this and see what that process looks like. Our first large topic will be how we develop pitchers in the training center. We're developing a really strong reputation for pumping out good arms, and we have a very integrated and a comprehensive way that we develop our young pitchers and turn them into talented young men, into bona fide college pitchers and hopefully professional pitchers down the road. So we're going to highlight some of the different ways and outline our protocols for that, and that'll be our next podcast. So we appreciate everyone tuning in today. We're going to go ahead and get this wrapped up, and then we're going to find out how to edit this, and then hopefully be on with you all soon.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at DubBaseball, at ID3 Training, and at Ozella Baseball. Thanks for joining us on the Talking Points podcast. Until next time, keep developing.